Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, a lot happening now on the voter ID front, and really this is now going to be the decisive issue, especially going into the midterms and going into future elections. So, as you know, the SAVE Act up on Capitol Hill is being hotly debated. In fact, Republicans now, with Susan Collins being the decisive 50th vote, she has now come on board and said she will support and vote for the SAVE Act. That means with J.D. Vance being the tie-breaking vote, they have the votes, if it was put to the floor, to pass a law that would restore election integrity. In particular, it would mandate, it would require that you have to have citizenship in order, proof citizenship, in order to be registered to vote. And then after you're registered to vote, and only citizens can register to vote, you're going to have to show voter photo ID when you go to vote. It just seems common sense to me. You want to have secure elections. You want to make sure that in a constitutional republic, only American citizens should decide American elections. It's really that simple. The Democrats now, this is the hill they are going to die on. They are filibustering the SAVE Act. They are fighting it tooth and nail. They will not allow it to come to a vote unless 7 Democrats cross the aisle, because Fetterman has come out in support of it. So 7 other Democrats need to cross the aisle in the Senate to get to the magic number of 60 to break a filibuster. And so the question now is Senate Majority Leader John Thune, does he have the spine, does he have the guts, does he have the intestinal fortitude to smash the Democrats and break the filibuster? In other words, maybe it's time to end the filibuster and say to hell with 60 votes. From this point forward, it's 50 plus 1 on everything. And let the chips fall where they may. We're going to see. But as this is going on, as they are now, I mean, this is daggers drawn as Democrats and Republicans now clash over the SAVE Act. You're starting to see states around the country take the initiative on their own. And one of them is the state of Kansas. So Kansas now has passed a law in the House, their state House, going to the state Senate. It's not law yet, but it's on the way. It is a bill that would mandate that citizenship status be put on every holder's driver's license. Every person who has a driver's license, it would have to stipulate on the driver's license whether you are a citizen or a non-citizen. Now, and the reason why they're doing this, or they're in the process of doing this, is because they want to guarantee that when you show up at the polls and you have to show voter photo ID, there are 10 states in the union that already require it, that when you show up to vote and you have to present ID, as the Republicans in Kansas and the Kansas legislature are rightly pointing out, well, you don't know if someone shows you a driver's license, whether that person is a citizen or not a citizen, whether that person can legitimately vote or not vote. For example, many people here on green cards, so-called permanent residents, they have a right to drive, they have driver's licenses, they have a right to work, but they're not allowed to vote. They're non-citizens. People here on work visas, all kinds of visas, student visas, they have the right to be here. Some of them have the right to vote. Some of them have the right to work, forgive me, but they don't have the right to vote. So, but they also can drive a car, so they're given a driver's license. Well, you don't know when someone comes to a polling place and say, okay, show me some ID. They show you a driver's license. It says whatever, Jeff Kuhner on it, just to make, put my own name out there. Well, is Jeff Kuhner a citizen or is Jeff Kuhner not a citizen? What this would do is it would finally provide clarity, and it would clearly show who is eligible and who is not eligible to vote. Now, to me, this is just common sense. In fact, I'll go even further. I think every state in the union should have this. I don't think it should just be Kansas that's pushing this. I think this is a reform that should be passed in every single state. Every driver's license we should have, for example, I have my driver's license right here. It says my name. It gives my weight, my height, my gender, my address. It doesn't say whether I'm a citizen or not a citizen. Well, why not? Why not? And so this way, I go vote. You show voter ID. Okay. Kuhner, yeah, he's got the little sticker on it, which says he's a citizen. You can go vote. Another sticker is for a non-citizen. Now, to me, this should easily become law in Kansas, and it should be emulated and passed in, as I said, in every other state in the union. No, 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 no. The Democrats and so-called left-wing activist and advocacy groups are declaring a jihad. There's no other way to put it. A jihad on this bill in Kansas and this very idea itself, saying, well, this will allow the police to discriminate against non-citizens. They're even complaining, saying, this is like the freedom papers that slaves had to have during the antebellum era when slavery was here in the United States. No one is asking for any class or unprotected class or disfavored class to have extra paperwork or extra documents. In Kansas, like everywhere else, you are required to have a driver's license, especially if you want to drive a car. Most people have driver's licenses. Hello. So all it is not asking you to provide more documentation or more proof of that you can vote or not vote. It's very simple. Everybody has to have a driver's license. So we just want factual, neutral information put on the driver's license. That's it. So I go vote. Look, can I look at your ID? Sure. Here's my ID. Okay, there it is. Says citizen. You can go vote. No, it says non-citizen. I'm sorry, sir. You're not eligible to vote, or ma'am, you're not eligible to vote. Please leave or you're committing a federal crime. The reason why the Democrats are dead set against this is because they want to make it easier to cheat. The reason why they don't want secure elections is because they have been cheating and they want to continue to cheat. And that's why they're coming up with reason after reason after reason to try to stop this bill or the SAVE Act or anything that would require voter photo ID. Because they know that if you impose voter ID, if you make it mandatory, it becomes much more difficult for them to engage in voter fraud, election corruption, and to cheat. And if they can't cheat, especially using illegal aliens, but also dead people or having people vote multiple times fraudulently, if they can't cheat, they can't win. And it's very obvious. So now they're petrified of all of these election reform, election integrity measures that states are taking. So I want to ask all of you, should citizenship status be put on every single driver's license that someone holds? Every people, I presume most of you have a driver's license. Should every person with a driver's license have their citizenship status placed on their driver's license. And it would be very simple. One little sticker or whatever would say citizen. The other one would say non-citizen. You could be, as I said, you could be here on a student visa. You could be here on a work visa. You could be here on a green card. Nothing wrong with that. You're here legally, but you're not allowed to vote because you're not a citizen of the United States. To me, this is a common sense measure. Forget Kansas. It should be in Massachusetts. It should be in California. It should be in New York. It should be in every state in the union. So, should there be citizenship status on people's driver's licenses? I say yes. What say you? 617-266-6868. I want to take calls right after the break. Okay, the lines are jammed. I'm going to go straight to the phone lines. Just very, very quickly. Many of you are texting the Kuhner man, emailing the Kuhner man, saying, Jeff, could you give the name of the bill? This is in Kansas, obviously, the state of Kansas. It passed the House, the state House. It's on its way to the state Senate. The governor will sign. There's no question. It is House Bill 2448. So, House Bill 2448. And, it would put citizenship, or the citizenship status, to be more accurate, on driver's licenses. And so it would require every driver's license in the state of Kansas to list the holder's citizenship status with a different design for non-citizens. And they say this would be a huge step towards election integrity, and to have election workers or election officials and poll workers, when people come to vote, to know, well, who's an eligible citizen to vote and who is not eligible to vote. And it would make their jobs much easier. And they say it would be an important bulwark, an important check and balance against voter fraud. I agree. In fact, I think we should have it in every single state, personally, and definitely here in Massachusetts. Now, you would think something as commonsensical as this, it just seems so obvious. It's almost self-evident, would be supported by everybody. Oh, no. The Democrats, they are going scorched earth on this. They're going ballistic. They're going ballistic. Democrat non-governmental organizations are going ballistic. George Soros and Alex Soros are about to lose their minds. The New York Times, the Washington Post, the Boston Globe, the liberal establishment media. This is the Freedom Papers. This is Jim Crow. I mean, they're throwing everything they have just at the idea of having our citizenship status, or yours or mine, put on a driver's license that most of us are required to carry anyway. It shows to you, it's becoming so obvious how much Democrats cheat and how much they depend upon voter fraud to cling to power. And to me, this is so obvious. By the way, I think this is a modest reform. I'm looking at this and I'm like, you're going crazy over this? I mean, this is a modest reform to, tighten up our elections and make them a little fairer and a little less corrupt. Agree, disagree? John in Arizona. You're going to kick us off, John. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Jeff, thank you. Jeff, thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
Been a long time. And, I know your family's out here, so, I hope they're doing well.
They are. Knock on wood. Thank you for asking, John.
And let me just say this. I live in Pima County, right outside Tucson. I totally agree with what you've been talking about, 100%. Should have been done 50 years ago. And what I see out here is, I'm in the liberal bastion, the People's Republic of Arizona, or really Tucson. But we're seeing, these problems have been going on out here since I've been out here for 20 years, and nothing has been done about it. Matter of fact, you could go to polling places, people would walk up to vote, and they just get brushed off, even if they could do a provisional, even if their name wasn't on the list. And
that's incredible.
You would see them, and you knew they weren't voting. I mean, this is part of the problems that's going on across the country, and we're seeing so many of these. And I'm going to give you a personal story. I went to vote in the 24 elections, right? Went up to vote in Tucson. I live just outside Vail. Went over to Tucson because that's where I had to vote, at a library. Went to the library. Parking lot was full. People were walking out. I noticed people were going in and coming out right away. And I looked at them and I said, well, they won't let us vote today. And I said, what? This is voting day. This is, like a week of voting. I walked in and they said, well, you can't vote in here. And I said, what? And they said, well, this is not the right day to come vote. What do you mean? Wasn't anything on the door or anything like that? Well, where I live in Vail is very conservative. People were coming up. Same problem. They said, you'll have to come back tomorrow. And it was like 9 to 5 was the time. So we came back, when we could, around 2:30, 3 o'clock. They said, we're closed. We couldn't vote. That was the precinct we were assigned at. It was too late to vote then, so we didn't get to put our vote in. Now, I don't know how many other precincts had that problem. We just happened to be in a conservative part of the county. And Tucson controlled the voting precincts, the voting people.
That's outrageous. John, that's naked voter fraud. That's election theft. That's what you're describing now is open election theft. And look, I think that's why they don't like stuff like what we're proposing or what they're doing in Kansas. Okay, big bill now they're trying to push it through the Kansas state legislature. It's passed the House. It's on its way to the state Senate. It's got national attention. Why? Because many, many other states are looking at it and saying, you know what? That sounds like a good idea. Maybe we should adopt it here as well. It would require that citizenship status be put on every holder's driver's license. Every person with a driver's license would have to have a design on it that would either say citizen or non-citizen. Again, you could be here legally, obviously. As I said, student visa, work visa, green card. There's so many ways where, and you have to drive a car, obviously, to get to work or get to school or whatever. But it would still designate you as a non-citizen. And you would have then, if you tried to vote and you have to show ID, you couldn't vote. Now, very quick, because, again, the lines are jammed. What the Democrats have tried to do, let's put our cards on the table, okay? As the French would say, entre nous, among us, is they tried to use the motor voter rolls as a way to create rampant, massive voter fraud. Give driver's licenses to illegals and then have them automatically registered to vote after they are issued their driver's license. And then basically say it's the onus on the illegal not to vote because they can't, because they're illegal. They're non-citizens. This cuts right through that. This blocks one of the main sources of fraud, because even if you issue, and I'm against issuing driver's licenses to illegals, but, let that go. Even if you issue a driver's license to an illegal, you can't now automatically register them to vote, because now it has to be placed on the driver's license that they are non-citizens. So that would force, say, the local DMV or the local RMV to say, yeah, no, I'm just going to make Jeff Kuhner say I'm an illegal. Jeff Kuhner, no, he's not a citizen. He's a non-citizen. So why can't you? That's why we can't register him to vote. He's a non-citizen. And we have then the government then has to acknowledge in their paperwork that Jeff Kuhner now is a non-citizen, i.e. an illegal or whatever, and that's why we had to issue him a driver's license, but the designation says non-citizen. That means he can't vote. Now you know why the Democrats are going apoplectic. I can't stress to you enough. I mean, they're going to try to nuke this bill in the state Senate. You think they're against the SAVE Act? You've got to see this. Because this is like, oh, what do we do if this goes to Iowa and then to Wisconsin and then to Michigan? And what if even, I don't know, Massachusetts? What if they get it on the ballot here? Let's say we get this on the ballot and we ask the voters of Massachusetts, should we have citizenship status on driver's licenses? And I'm telling you, like auditing the state legislature, you're going to get 72%, probably even more. What are the Democrats going to do then? It will bring down their entire voter fraud machine. That's why they're against it. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Hank in Washington. Thanks for holding, Hank, and welcome.
Jeff, I love you in a non-sexual way, however, I have this amazing girlfriend who I do love in a sexual way, so my apologies for not calling in for a long, long time. But hey, when you come to this country and visit from somewhere else, you have your driver's license for your country, and then you get a permit that's basically like an international driver's license. If you're not a legal resident of this country, I don't even think states should have the right or the state to give you a state driver's license. I think it should be something that has to go through the feds, almost like something like an international license or something like that. A lot of states also, if you're a minor and you're under 21, they print your driver's license vertically rather than horizontally, so you can immediately tell that you're underage and you can't buy liquor or alcohol or anything like that. But at the very minimum, I would say something like that. But I don't even think individual states, if you're not a legal resident, should be able to issue that license at all. It should be something that comes from the feds that allows you to drive and is basically like a permit, but it can be revoked at whatever time, or you may have to go in more frequently to renew it. And at that time, they can check your immigration status or whatever. But
Hank, I'm so happy you mentioned that, because it's funny. Sandy and I were just talking about this yesterday, because we were talking about this story and, the pros and cons. Is it a good idea, not a good idea? And Sandy made an excellent point. She said, look, I got friends who bought a second house. This is what she said to me. She has friends who bought a second house in southern France. Southern France is beautiful. A lot of Americans have a second home there. I don't blame them. And they live there, 3-4 months of the year. Well, the French government or the region that they're in doesn't issue them a driver's license. I mean, they have to have a car, they drive. They have an international, as you pointed out, they have an international driver's license. And, it's accepted in France. Frankly, it's accepted in most European countries. And so you drive, that's your license. Now, you can't just show up and vote in French elections, even though you own property, even though you pay taxes, some of them, property taxes, whatever. Still doesn't give you the right to vote in French elections. And so, and they ask France, like most countries, they have voter photo ID. So if you're to show up, they'd say, can I see your driver's license? Well, right away, you show the international driver's license by, you're lucky we don't arrest you for trying attempted voter fraud. So I agree with you. Most other countries in the world, especially Europe, you're there temporarily for whatever reason. You get an international driver's license. Why don't we do that here? Hank, I mean, what's your theory on that?
I feel like there is. When I was in law enforcement with LAPD, I would stop several people that had international driver's licenses, and they were here on a visa or touring or whatever, and they had this permit. So I know we have them. However, I don't know why the states have these individual rights of being able to enforce or allow something that's a federal law as far as like immigration goes to just be able to willy-nilly give you a driver's license. And so, that needs to start happening more. And I would like to see like, either DHS or Christendom or whatever get on this about we're no longer allowing states to have the right to just issue these. If you're here and you're not a citizen, then it becomes a federal issue. And if you want that, then you need to, at the time that you do your green card or whatever papers you do, then a driver's license is also attached to that.
I love it. Hank, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Hank, say hi to your girlfriend for me. Hank, thank you so much for that call. I really appreciate it. Look, I'll just tell you my story super quick. I bet most of the people Hank pulled over were probably tourists, which is fine. Okay, I get it. Let's just say you come from Britain, you come from Japan, whatever. And, you stay for 3-4 weeks. And so you rent a car. Well, you're not going to get a driver's license. So you have an international driver's license. I get it. And that's fine. That's good. That's the way it should be. But for example, when I came to the United States at the Washington Times, so I came on a work visa initially. So I'm here on a work visa and it was renewed every 3 years. And I initially, when I went to work, because DC is sandwiched between Virginia and Maryland, and most people who work in DC, with a few exceptions, don't live in DC. It's very dangerous. There's a lot of crime. Anyway, so they either live in Maryland or they live in Virginia. So we initially lived in Virginia. Now, remember, I'm on a work visa, okay? Renewed every 3 years. No guarantee that it'll be renewed in 3 years. I had to get a driver's license, not an international driver's license or my former license that I had in Canada. I had to get a state of Virginia issued driver's license. And I remember I used to say this all the time in the newsroom. I mean, it has my picture, like a normal driver's license, height, weight, address. I said, I could just walk in and vote and nobody would know. Okay, I want to ask all of you. It is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day. Du jour, as the French would say. Sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. Do you support citizenship status placed on driver's licenses? Should the holder's citizenship status be put on one's driver's license? A, yes. B, no. You know where I stand. I'm a hell yes. What took you so long? Okay, on this one, but that's me. I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN as in national ER. You can also vote via X, and yep, I was active on X last night. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, KUHN as in national ER. Paul in Cohasset. Thanks for holding, Paul, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, welcome to the United States of Racism again. Here we go again. Listen, Jeff, let me tell you something. It's not about the licenses. They're using these people as pawns, okay? They don't care about the vote. The Republicans steal votes just like the Democrats. We all know it. They did that. There's no way George Bush II was elected twice. They cheated, too. So, give me a break. My ex-wife has been out of Massachusetts now for 10 years. She's still on the voting ballot where I live. So give me a break. There's a lot of fraud going on, and that's the way Uncle Sam does business.
What do you think about putting one citizenship status on driver's licenses? Do you think it's a good idea or a bad idea? Is Paul in Cohasset for it?
The Patriot Act all over again, Jeff. Hey, we're doing this for everybody's benefit, and then they stab you in the back.
Oh,
the way they do all the time.
Interesting.
That's all they're going to do, Jeff.
So, Paul, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're basically saying don't give the government any more control, any more power whether they can determine, or not determine, but whether they can put one's citizenship status or not. They're just looking to expand their reach and their authority and their surveillance and their power over individual Americans, correct?
Just like they always do, Jeff. My grandfather always said, you can't trust freedom when it's not in your hands.
Interesting. Paul, thank you very much for that call. Okay, hey, let me ask all of you. I mean, this is an interesting angle by Paul. It's a libertarian angle, but I think, we know how the government's been abusing its power now for decades. Let me ask all of you, is this government overreach? Is this Big Brother? Is it the government's business to, A, monitor your citizenship status, and B, to get involved in whether they should place citizenship status on a driver's license? I mean, just to give you the other side, the argument is, a driver's license is about whether you're eligible to drive. It should have nothing to do with whether you're a citizen or a not citizen. So what do you make of that argument? Where I stand? I think voter fraud is so bad, so rampant. It's eating away at our country. I think it's going to destroy us if we don't stop this. Because the problem now is people aren't trusting the results of the elections. So after a while, if you don't trust the results of the elections, you're going to start thinking that every president that gets elected or even member of Congress is illegitimate. And once you start going down that road, that's a third world banana republic. But that's me. I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868. Robin in the Freedom State, Florida. Thanks for holding, Robin, and welcome.
Thank you. Hi, Jeff. There's another problem that's pretty massive, probably around the United States. I had a girlfriend in Florida who's a crazy Democrat. There's a massive group of women that are assigned to various nursing homes throughout Florida. She would bring the voting forms and have the elderly just sign the form, and the Dems would fill it out for them. And I also support citizenship status on a driver's license.
Oh, you're dead on, Robin. They're abusing the elderly and these nursing homes. It's called ballot harvesting. They go in and they, sign them up or get them registered or whatever, and then say, oh, can I help you with your vote? Give them absentee ballots or mail-in ballots, and then say, oh, let me help you fill that out for you. Oh, you don't really want to vote for Trump, do you? He's going to cut your Medicare. You know that, right? Really? Oh, yeah, he's going to cut your Social Security. He's going to cut everything. No, yeah. No, if I were you, I would just check Kamala, okay? Let me help you there. Check. I mean, I'm telling you, it happens over and over and over and over again. So I'm with you, Robin. There's no question. There's no question. Look, that's why I believe you should have in-person voting. You should require proof of citizenship to vote. You should not have, this is ridiculous, 2, 3, 4 weeks ahead of time to vote. I think that's outrageous. We should return to what we had historically, Election Day. Okay, that's it. Everybody votes on the same day. And this absentee or mail-in balloting should be limited to our troops who serve overseas, and really people who are in wheelchairs, or, just for medical reasons, really cannot get to a voting booth, a polling place. Okay, but legitimate medical reasons. So outside of that, and paper ballots, we have to return to paper ballots. I don't trust these machines. Nobody trusts these machines. Machines make mistakes. Technology is not perfect. So you do that, and we're going to have really secure elections. Now, I'm not saying this is the silver bullet. I'm not saying, citizenship status on a driver's license and suddenly all our problems are solved. But it's a step towards fairer elections, more secure elections, and, it blocks some voter fraud. I mean, because now, here, look, this is the scam. Illegals now are told you have to get a driver's license. They show up, they get a driver's license. They're automatically registered to vote. Bang. So now they have a form of ID and they're registered to vote. So even if you require photo ID, they show up and say, okay, here it is. Here it is. Here's my driver's license. What this does is this completely undercuts that. No. Now we can check right away on the driver's license. The design says everything. Citizen, non-citizen. End of story. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Bill in Medfield. Thanks for holding, Bill, and welcome.
Hi, how you doing, Jeff?
I'm good. How are you, Bill?
Not too good because I'm the other way around. I think I told you a year and a half ago how I'm being denied my Social Security.
Yes.
I was born in Sydney, Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. Well, they're playing the game that I don't have an both parents were born in America, and they died in America. And I was given a Social Security card in 1975 when I was 18. I'm 68 years I lived here, and they're playing the game every time I go to the Social Security office. Like I went there last Thursday, and they told me to call up the Canadian consulate in Boston, and the guy told me there, hey, you called the wrong place. So they gave me they decide who they're going to give the Social Security to and not gonna. So they're probably going to look me up that I vote Republican for Trump, and they're going to kick me off of the voting program, whatever it list. And do you mind if I talk for a second to the Trump administration?
Well, Bill, before you do that, can I just ask you a question? So you know your Social Security number, I assume, correct?
Yeah.
Right, Bill?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't understand. Your name is attached to the Social Security number. So they should know right away. I'm just going to make it up, Bill in Medfield, Social Security number, whatever, 000000000. And so how can they be denying you your Social Security? I don't understand that.
A broad certificate. It got lost or thrown out accidentally 65 or 68 years ago, whatever. So I got to get both parents born in America. I was given a Social Security card. I'd like to get help from the Trump administration. I'm being denied my health care, my prescription drugs, and my Social Security, which I worked 30-some years for.
Bill, get a lawyer because you got a lawsuit on your hands. I'm telling you right now, you have a lawsuit. If you're an American citizen, and I believe you are, obviously, and your parents were American citizens, and you were given a Social Security number at birth, what they're doing to you is illegal, it's immoral, it's disgusting. You're at 60, whatever, you're over 65, you're entitled to Social Security, you're entitled to Medicare, you're entitled to all kinds of benefits. And this is beyond outrageous. And I'll tell you this, and I'm going to be very honest with you. If you were an illegal alien, if you just if you were born in Mexico to Mexican parents, I'm just going to use Mexico as an example, and you were to just cross the border illegally and come to Massachusetts, you would be getting, as I speak to you now, free housing, you'd be getting food stamps, you'd be getting free health care, mass health, free. You'd be getting Social Security. You'd be getting a $2,000 a monthly stipend, okay, a prepaid Visa card, EBT card, recharged every single month. So you tell me, and you'd vote. I mean, it's illegal, but you'd vote. Because they'd give you a driver's license and they'd register you to vote, and you can just vote and vote and vote and vote and vote. So, Bill, your example shows just how screwed up the entire system is. It's rigged against Americans and American citizens in favor of illegals. Bill, thank you so much for that call. Dane in Florida. Thanks for holding, Dane, and welcome.
If you ever had a poll question that is such a no-brainer, it would be this question. First of all, let me say, I'm in Naples, Florida. If I go to the Western Union or MoneyGram and want to send $10, I need an ID to send $10. So this big objection to this SAVE Act, and they're not even voting. It's such a simple. If there's any honor, it's me having the right to be a citizen and vote in this country. The most distinguished honor a person can have to vote for who you want because you're a citizen of the United States of America. What these politicians, are they that stupid, corrupt, and ignorant? All the above. You don't even have to answer it, Jeff.
Well, Dane, I promise I'm going to give you all the time, okay? I'm not going to, you're going to finish everything you want to say. Because you made the point about Western Union, and you're right. But let's just push this a little bit more. Dane, if you got to get medications at your local Walgreens, CVS, you need your whatever, driver's license, whatever. You need photo ID. You want to open a bank account, photo ID. You want to apply and get your Social Security, photo ID. Your Medicare, photo ID. Say you're on Medicaid, photo ID. Food stamps, photo ID. Insurance of any kind, photo ID. You want to drive a car, obviously, driver's license, photo ID. I mean, I could go on and on. A library card, photo ID. A discount card at the grocery store, photo ID. I could go on, and you want to apply for a job, photo ID. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. I can't tell you how many times I've been asked. You know, I think it was Mark in Medford who sent me this text. He said, Jeff, come on, let's be honest. You cannot function in the modern world without photo ID. Whether we like it or not. I mean, I'm sure if Paul in Cohasset would say it's Big Brother, and in a way, I kind of understand where he's coming from. But look, it is what it is, okay? It's the world the way it is. They require photo ID for everything. Everything. So this argument that it discriminates against blacks, it's a lie. That it discriminates against low-income people or people, let's say, who don't have a high school degree or less educated. That's a lie. That it discriminates against married women. This is now their latest. Because women have their maiden name, then they change to their married name. They're saying, oh, my God, if you got to have proof of citizenship to vote, and oh, my God, you got to, have photo ID, women are going to be disenfranchised. What are you talking about? Women have to show ID for everything, just like men. What are you talking about? Like, it's the stupidest argument I've ever heard in my life. Look, I'm telling you, you can't function. You can't apply for a job. You can't have a bank account. You can't get your medications. You can't get your government benefits. You can't drive. You can't travel. You can't board a plane without ID. You can't board a train without ID. I can't tell. I don't know. I got my iPhone, and for whatever reason, they wanted my ID to buy a stupid phone. I don't know. They put me in the system. Whatever. Here, okay, here's my ID. Next, move on. Leave me alone. Like, there's nothing. That's why when you ask African Americans and Latinos, overwhelmingly, they support voter photo ID. And when you say, well, according to the Democrats, they say it's harder for you. That this is Jim Crow, according to Schumer. This is Jim Crow 2.0. It's segregation. It's apartheid. They get offended. They're like, what, you think I'm so stupid? That really, I'm so incapable? Forgive me, I'm so freaking low IQ that I can't just get ordinary photo ID or I can't get a driver's license? By the way, it's free. But that's the other thing in the SAVE Act. Government issued ID free. Free. So, well, Jeff, I don't have a driver's license or what? Fine. Or I can't afford or whatever. I can't afford photo ID. No problem. The government will come to your house and take all your information, click, take your picture, there's the card, here it is. Free. So, look, the only ones being racist are them. The only ones being sexist are them. And by the way, and this is the checkmate argument, look it up. And I'm going to do this a little bit later in the show, Dane. But please, don't take my word for it. Look it up. Practically every country in the world has voter photo ID to vote in an election. Do you know that every country in Africa, okay, it's full of black people. Let me state the obvious. How come they all have to require voter photo ID? They're not complaining. All 12 countries in South America, including Mexico, all of them, voter ID, photo ID. What, the Latinos, they can do it in South America? They can't do it here? I mean, I'm just saying how stupid this argument is. Every European country, every country in Europe, every single one of them, they require voter photo ID. So what now? Iceland is an apartheid state? Sweden is now an apartheid state? By the way, South Africa has voter photo ID. So what? They're resegregating themselves now, according to Schumer, in South Africa? I mean, this is how absurd. There's 200 countries that have voter ID. We're one of the few countries in the world that doesn't require voter photo ID. So here's their argument. Either the world is Jim Crow and the world is anti-democratic, or there's something wrong with the Democrats. So either the Democrats are crazy or the world is crazy. I don't think the world is crazy. They want to cheat. We know they want to cheat. And that's why they don't want to have voter photo ID. Dane, yes, no, I give you the last word.
Jeff, if I want to get a senior job at McDonald's, guess what? For minimum wage, where's your ID, sir? End of story. This is ridiculous. I'm telling you, I can't even get on a plane now. Not only with an ID, my ID has to mark that I'm a citizen of the United States to get on that plane. So they took it even further with the ID to get on the plane. But this is a mute argument. It should be end of story. Vote it and vote it in now.
Amen. Dane, as always, good stuff, Dane. Dynamite stuff. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask you, double-barreled question. Should we have citizenship status put on driver's licenses? I say yes. And is it racist, discriminatory, or now the Democrats are claiming sexist against married women to require voter photo ID when you vote, or to provide proof of citizenship to be registered to vote? 617-266-6868. Do you support voter photo ID? And are the Democrats now making it as plain as day that the reason why they oppose it is because they want to cheat and cheat and cheat? Okay, I got to say, best, I know, I sound like a tape, but it's true. Best audience in the business. Many of you are messaging me, texting, emailing the Kuhner Man, making this obvious point, which is, by the way, so true. They go, Jeff, to show you how much the world has changed in 20 years. They go, 20 years ago, you buy cough medicine, no problem. Really, you just go, you buy it, pay whatever it would cost, and you go home. Give it to your children, take it yourself, for your spouse, whatever. Now, you want to buy NyQuil or any cough syrup. You got to show ID. Stuff that you just bought off the counter, no problem. You know what I mean? On the counter, you just bought it, no problem. Right there on the counter. No, now you got to show ID. So, you buy a bottle of alcohol. I'm 56 years old. It doesn't matter. Everybody has to show ID. Doesn't matter your age. 20 years ago, he's bald, he's gray. Look at the Kuhner man. Hell, he looks 60, 65, forget 56. There's no way this guy's under 21. Don't even bother to ask him for his, don't bother carding him. Don't bother asking him for his ID. So everything now, ID. Whether it's good or bad, just let that go. It's just a fact of the world that we live in. So this idea now, all of a sudden, you need ID for everything. And again, the world basically uses voter photo ID to vote in elections. The world, the entire continent of Africa, the entire continent of South America, the entire continent of Europe, most of Asia, okay? Most of Asia, most of the Middle East. I don't know, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, I could go on and on and on. So what? They're all racist countries now? All of a sudden, according to the Democrats, it's all Jim Crow and apartheid? I mean, this is such a stupid argument. Frankly, it's insulting to our intelligence. And it's so obvious. Remember when Bill in Sudbury called? This was maybe a week ago, 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever. And we were talking about the SAVE Act. And I kept pressing him, but why do you keep insisting on voter ID? Opposing voter ID? Why do you keep opposing voter ID? You keep insisting you're going to oppose. And he came so close to admitting it. He was right there. On the air, he was like about to crack. And say, because we cheat. And we need to keep cheating. How else are we going to win elections? Even here in Massachusetts, if you take away voter fraud, suddenly this is not such a blue state. And they know that. Having voter fraud, having illegals, dead people, people voting multiple times, vote in elections is the key to the Democrats' power. It is the key to their power. You take that away, it's, as they say, the ball game. They're finished, and they know it. Mark in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Hey, buddy.
Mark, how are you, my friend? Long time no hear.
Well, I've been busy shoveling all this climate change up here, Sitting on 3 feet of climate change. It's great. Where the heck's Al Gore? I need to find some of this global warming that he keeps talking about, Jeff.
Mark, what's your take on this issue, my friend?
Okay, help me make sense of this, Jeff, okay? Let's just talk about Kansas, right? I did a little digging. Did you know in the state of Kansas, Jeff, to get a driver's license, you have to show either a birth certificate, a valid passport, a foreign driver's license, or a letter from your consulate. You have to show these things to get an actual license. There's no undue burden. You already have to prove who you are. All they're doing is putting a little letter on the license that says citizen, non-citizen, So there's nothing new that they have to do. Now they're just identifying it, Jeff, and that's where their problem is. That's why the left hates this, Jeff. Okay? They hate the fact that you're going to identify who the illegal is or who the non-citizen is by not allowing them to vote. And that's what they hate. They don't hate that you're going to require a birth certificate because they already do. They just hate the fact that you're going to point it out now.
Mark, how widespread do you think voter fraud is for the Democrats? Because, they're going crazy. They're going crazy over the Kansas bill. This is going to be a political war up on Capitol Hill. Thune just came out and said he's going to put it to the floor. And Schumer now says you're going to see the mother of all filibusters. That they're going to shut the government down if they have to. But there's no way they're going to get the SAVE Act to be voted on. What are the Democrats so afraid of? How widespread, how deep does this voter fraud go in your view, Mark?
I think every one of these blue states where they give illegals and, non-documented workers' driver's licenses, I guarantee it's happening. I mean, look in your own state, Jeff, Massachusetts, when they pushed this bill to give illegals driver's licenses, wasn't it one of the Republican reps offered up an amendment that said, fine, give them a license, just don't auto-enroll them to vote. And every Democrat voted against that amendment. That's all the proof you need, Jeff. They want these people voting. Oh, well, they can just check the box saying they don't want to register. They can't read the box. How are they going to check it? I mean, give me a break. Every one of these states, and for them to come out and say black people are too stupid to figure out how to get a license, women are too dumb and just can't handle having to figure out how to get a piece of paper that matches their name. That's the bigotry of low expectations, Jeff. That's the real racism in this, Jeff. It's the left detesting immigrants and blacks, calling them dumb, stupid, lazy because they can't figure out how to go get a license or they can't figure out how to get their own birth certificate. This is what they do, Jeff. They beat these people down, slap them upside the head and say, you're just too ignorant to understand. We'll take care of this for you.
Mark, you got to call more often. Promise?
Oh, buddy, I've just been busy, man,
No, I know. Listen, you're Kuhner country. We're too busy freaking working, paying taxes, and raising our families. I hear you, my friend. I bet you're on your way to work now. I guarantee it. So even when you call, you're working or on your way to work. Mark, thank you. Outstanding call. Checkmate. Really. Game, set, match. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just super quick, because I want to stay on topic, obviously, because it's one of the biggest issues, maybe the biggest issue of our time, which is to end voter corruption and voter fraud and electoral theft, which has been the basis of democratic power now going back at least decades. We're looking at least 20 years, if not more. But there is a big breaking news story. It broke actually just before the show started. Prince Andrew Mountbatten, as he's now called, formerly Prince Andrew, has been arrested. He is in custody regarding the Epstein files. Now, it's not him doing anything sexually deviant. It's about apparently the trade secrets. He was handing over sensitive trade documents and trade secrets to Epstein. That was also revealed in the release of the Epstein files. It's been a massive scandal in Britain. He has now been arrested. It's a huge fallout from the release of these files. And to show you how much the royal family really can't stand him, his brother, which is the King Charles, came out and said, I respect the law. I mean, the way he phrased it, I want due process to play out. And, I believe that my brother will be treated fairly and let the consequences be what they are. Basically, the king is saying, as much as he can say, arrest this, not just arrest this SOB, jail this SOB. He's been a family embarrassment for decades. Can't stand him. He's a stain on the royal family. And, send this guy to prison because this guy, has been he's been the family embarrassment for I don't know how many decades. And I'm sure they told him over and over again, knock it off with Epstein. Knock it off with the underage girls. Knock it off with the partying. You're going to get yourself and the family in trouble. And of course, Andrew being Andrew, the party animal that he is, couldn't help himself. And I guess Epstein, in exchange for giving him minor girls that are underage, wanted trade secrets so he could give it to his friends and cronies. And Prince Andrew, Andrew delivered and gave him the trade documents. And now it looks like they've got the handcuffs on him. He's in custody and he could go to jail. This is going to turn into one of the biggest stories in the world. No, what I find incredible is how in Europe, royal houses are falling, former prime ministers are being arrested, prominent leaders are going to jail. And yet here, nothing. Nothing. No powerful man that was part of the Epstein trafficking or pedophile ring has been arrested or indicted? Nothing. Not one person has gone to jail, with the exception, obviously, of Ghislaine Maxwell. But in terms of all these powerful men, not a single one. 617-266-6868. Kim in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Kim, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. I was originally calling about the topic, but goodness, as you say that no man has been arrested. I'm a molestation survivor as a kid, and that just breaks my heart. Oh, goodness. Oh, my.
Well, we're not going to let it go, Kim. I mean, I'm not going to let it go. I know my wife, Grace, is not going to let it go. And I know many people within MAGA. We are not going to let this go. So, no, they can try to cover it up and stonewall all they want. We're going to go after the perpetrators. Justice will come. We're not going to let it go. And, Kim, I know it's small comfort to victims like you, and I get it, obviously. But there's no statute of limitations. There's no statute of limitations on murder or on rape or, on sexually assaulting a minor or a young girl. So, we're going to get it. We're going to get it either with Trump or we'll get it with J.D. Vance or whatever. But we will get it. So justice will come. It may take a very long time, but it's going to come. But anyway, I don't want to get sidetracked. I want to stick to voter ID and the SAVE Act. 617-266-6868. Sergio in Quincy. Thanks for holding, Sergio, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Sergio?
I'm doing well. Real quick, interesting loophole of how the government can deny to all people that are here legally that you can only acquire a license in Massachusetts with proper documentation, with a government document. So here's the loophole, okay, Jeff? The registry will send an illegal to the Social Security office in order to get a letter of denial with their name on it and therefore now have an official document from the government stating who they...
Sure, going to say, yeah, please say stuff, crap, stuff, whatever. Yeah, no, Sergio, let me ask you, do you like this idea of, mandating citizenship status be put on every single person's driver's license? Do you think that's going to help or hurt? What say you?
Oh, 1,000%. I come from the third world. I came here legally. So they all, everybody requires an ID. Before they used to get people to vote in where they were illiterate, they would tell them, put the X next to the guy you don't want in order for them to vote for the wrong person. But let me tell you, Jeff, very quickly, the other thing that has to go hand in hand with this conversation is the redistricting and all you cannot count illegals in the census. The census has to be also defined by citizenship or state or status.
Oh, I so agree with you, Sergio. And that's another reason why the Democrats keep insisting you count total population. And we're like, no, because that means you're including illegals. That's why, by the way, California is overrepresented. Illinois is overrepresented. New York is overrepresented. Massachusetts is overrepresented. Both in the House of Representatives, in terms of actual representatives, and of course in the Electoral College. So they want it for power for many reasons, and the census is one of them. So to me, the census should only count citizens, period. Sergio, dynamite call. Thank you so much, Sergio. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I don't have time yet to go to Maria and Ludlow. I will after the break. Quick reset. Kansas now has a bill that the whole country is talking about. it would require that citizenship status be put on every single person's driver's license. It would be a designation, either citizen or non-citizen. I love the idea. The Democrats now are waging a holy war against it. What say you? Okay, I want to go to Maria in Ludlow just very quick before I go. Senate Majority Leader John Thune, obviously feeling a tremendous amount of pressure from Kuhner country. I know you've been lighting up his phone, but from MAGA, from conservatives, from Trump supporters all across the country. He now says he will try to force a vote on the SAVE Act. He will put it to the floor, thereby forcing the Democrats to filibuster. The Democrats are vowing, come hell or high water, they will never allow the SAVE Act to pass. If they have to filibuster forever, they will filibuster forever. And so as things stand right now, the Republicans, if it was a 50+1 majority, they have the votes. You need 60 because the Democrats want to filibuster it. So you need 60 votes to break a filibuster. With Susan Collins, they have 50 votes. JD would be the tie-breaking vote. JD Vance, the vice president. So we have the votes now to pass the SAVE Act, which would be a body blow to voter fraud in this country. It would fundamentally change the way our elections are done, and it would make cheating and fraud, I'm not saying impossible, but much more difficult. And this is why the Democrats are dead set against it. As I've been saying all morning, this is the hill they're ready to die on. Because I think they realize politically they will die if the SAVE Act is passed, at least for a generation. So this is where things stand right now. 617-266-6868. Maria in Ludlow. Thanks for holding, Maria, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Maria?
Tired. But I 1,000% agree with getting your ID. Ever since I became a U.S. citizen in 2001, one of the happiest days and proudest days of my life, every time I go and vote, I always bring my license. And I've been told, oh, you don't need it. Yes, I do. How do you know it's not me? I'm just giving you a name and an address. How do you know if I'm that person that lives at that particular address and that name is the same? So they look at my ID and they look at me. So I 1,000% agree it should be done. And there's no problem. Bring your passport, bring whatever. If you want to do anything in this country, get a loan, go buy beer, go travel. You got to show an ID. You got to show proof of something. And yes, I totally agree that something should be put on your license says that you are a citizen, an American citizen, to differentiate from the others. Because you have the organ donor on your ID, why not put this new thing? It costs nothing. It's just something so simple that it will make such a difference. I am so sick of these Democrats, the lunacy. These people are insane. And I bet you, Jeff, 1,000%, the best take in the House, like you said, if it came down to every person that just voted that is a U.S. citizen, these blue states, these sanctuary states would not be blue. I could bet you probably the best state. And I just find it that they're arguing over something that it shouldn't even be an argument. Jeff, I got notice from the Azores, where I come from, the islands off the coast of Portugal, that if I wanted to go back home and visit, I have to renew my Portuguese ID from there. And I was born there, even though I'm a U.S. citizen. I have to renew it. So I have to make an appointment at the Portuguese Council in Boston to go and renew this in case if I wanted to go back, to show that I'm not an illegal there. It's mind-boggling that this is a thing.
Oh, you're so right, Maria, honestly. And by the way, Maria, I was going to mention this, but you kind of beat me to the punch. I said, well, Maria, you're originally from Portugal. And by the way, I didn't know you were from those islands. I've heard they're beautiful. My wife has been there. And she says, stunning, gorgeous. She says, well, honestly, one of the most beautiful places she's ever seen in her life. And she says the seafood, the fish is to die for. Okay, but let all that go, Maria, as I like to say. In Portugal, just for people to know, Maria, in Portugal, tell me, do they have voter photo ID when people vote in Portugal? I'm just curious. Because, according to Schumer, that means it's Jim Crow 2.0. It's apartheid. So, and by the way, also, it discriminates against women. So, I don't know, do the Portuguese people, the men, the women, do they have to show voter ID when they go vote, Maria, in Portugal? I'm just curious.
1,000%. Yes, they do. We have to show a picture ID to go. And if you don't have a picture ID, you can show your birth certificate that you are a citizen of that country in order to vote. But 99.9%, everybody has their license, their picture ID. There is no question. If you don't have that, you are not able to vote.
Jeez, Maria, I don't get this. If the Portuguese can do it, why can't we do it? I had no idea that Portugal was this incredibly racist country. I thought South Africa under apartheid was bad, but I guess Portugal now is the new South Africa, according to Chuck Schumer and the Democrats. What kind of a country you guys got over there, Maria? What kind of an operation you guys running over there? Maria, they're so stupid. Honestly, they're so stupid. Maria, thank you so much for that call, and get some rest. She works the night shift. She's a nurse. She works very hard. 617-266-6868 is the number. By the way, in 1996, and by the way, they don't believe in what they're saying. You can tell when Schumer makes his argument, it's pure demagoguery. They're lying. They know they're lying. It's clear fear-mongering. In 1996, Schumer's caught on tape. Then he was arguing against welfare fraud. And you know what he said? To collect welfare or any kind of government benefit, guess what you should show? ID. Photo ID. Because according to Schumer, only citizens, and he's right, only citizens should be able to get welfare. So, when, was Schumer a white supremacist? Was he KKK in 1996? So it just shows you he's a liar. He doesn't even believe what he's saying. 617. No, look, the reason why they're playing stupid, and that's what they are, is because they're stealing. That's why. They're stealing votes. They're cheating. They're rigging and stealing elections. It's so obvious. And this measure, for the most part, would block them and stop them. That's why they got to come up with the most preposterous reasons to oppose it and try to sink it. It's so obvious. A bank robber doesn't want to be told he can't rob banks anymore. 617-266-6868. Okay, just very quickly. This is from 603. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. And this is from 603. Jeff, regarding passing the SAVE Act, just like yourself, it took me some time to come around to the idea of getting rid of the filibuster. But given the circumstances, ultimately, I think Trump is right on this. Republicans now should get rid of the filibuster. And of course, the Democrats are dead set against this because they don't currently hold the majority. That being said, I have to ask, why would the Democrats ever be against ending the filibuster? Even though we're a republic, the Dems go on and on about our quote unquote democracy. Well, Jeff, Isn't a 51 vote simple majority the very definition of democracy? So what's the problem here? Checkmate. Brilliant. Brilliant. Because that's all the Democrats keep saying. We're a democracy. We're a democracy. We're a democracy. We're not a republic. We're a democracy. Well, what's the essence of democracy? Literally, its very definition. 50 plus 1 gets to decide. That's it. 100 people, 51, they get to decide and they can do whatever they want to the other 49. That's what democracy is. So why now all of a sudden are they for the filibuster? Now, let me tell you what changed my mind. And that's why I think Trump is completely right. The Democrats are vowing that if they come back to power, especially this November, but doesn't matter, 2028, if they win back the House and the Senate, they're getting rid of the filibuster. So the moment the Democrats come back to power, forget the presidency. They just take back Congress. They're getting rid of the filibuster. So the question no longer is, do we get rid of the filibuster? The question is, do we wait for the Democrats to get rid of the filibuster? Because that's how they want to pack the Supreme Court. That's how they want to change the Electoral College or abolish the Electoral College. This is how they want to bring in Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. estates. So they want to end the filibuster. It's only going to be 50 plus 1 the moment they seize power again. So Trump is saying, look, don't be stupid. Beat them to the punch. And this way we can pass the SAVE Act, among other things, and stop voter fraud dead in its tracks. And then the Democrats, it'll be very difficult, if not impossible, for them to win because they're so far to the left. They're so outside the mainstream. Good luck winning an election, at least within our lifetime. And that's why I'm for ending the filibuster. And that's why I've been urging Thune, end this damn filibuster, end it now. Just break the Democrats. No, you want a filibuster? We're ending the filibuster. Vote on the SAVE Act. 50 plus 1, and let the chips fall where they may. And I agree with, I think it was Maria. I forget who, but someone, a previous caller said, Jeff, it's going to change everything. Red states will become even redder. Purple states will become red states. And blue states are going to become purple states. That's what's going to happen if you pass the SAVE Act and you end voter fraud. Now, you know it. I know it. Republicans know it. Democrats know it. That's why they're against this bill. In Kansas, they don't want, it's not so much Kansas. It's that this bill can spread to other states. Citizenship being put on driver's licenses. That's like garlic to a vampire. So, you combine that with the SAVE Act, it's over. It's over. Because remember, the SAVE Act doesn't just require voter photo ID in every state, in every election. It doesn't just require that you have to show proof of citizenship to be registered to vote, but it mandates, it compels every state to purge their voter rolls of non-citizens, illegals, dead people, you name it. That's the kiss of death. And by the way, the country will then see how many people were voting illegally, fraudulently, once this passes. It's not just going to bury the Democrats politically. It's going to expose to the whole country how deep, how widespread, how rampant the fraud was. And by the way, that 2020 was clearly stolen from Trump. So it's going to lead to a massive political scandal. So the Democrats have reason upon reason upon reason to oppose any kind of election integrity reform. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree? Kenny in Weston. Thanks for holding, Kenny, and welcome.
Yeah, I got to say, you do have the best callers. And secondly, I want to say I've been around for 40 some odd years. I've been the presidential debates, Senate, I mean, you name it. I know a lot of politicians, both sides. But I'm going to tell you, I don't know if there's anybody. Every time, I think you said last week that you said, man, I wish I was there. Jeff, every time I hear these pundits or whoever on TV, cable channels, you name it, I'm thinking to myself, man, I wish Jeff was there. Man, he would tear them up one side and down the other.
Oh, thank you, Ken.
I think I really, really, truly mean that. So, but I think I have to give credit to your other half there, Grace. I never met her, but sounds great. But listen, getting to the point, this is a very close, he used to work for me. Police, 30-some-odd years in Newton, he could tell you stories from now to midnight. He was in charge of the polling. He would see vans come up, people getting out of the vans, people at least, whoever they were, maybe the NGOs or whatever, taking these people by the hand, bring them into the polling center. He could tell you stories, and let me tell you, and keep in mind now, this is just one town, one city, one state. So you can imagine if this happens. It was unbelievable, the stories that he told me. I'm thinking, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, right next door to us in Newton. So, yeah, it does. And, as you travel around and you talk to different people, from one guy I ran into last summer up in New Jersey, up in Maine, excuse me. He's from, and he was just saying the same thing. People go, and all these little sub-stories and stories that you hear from different people randomly, and you're thinking to yourself, wow, how it's unbelievable. So you can imagine how widespread it really is.
Oh, Kenny, look, I'll tell you how widespread it is, okay? And you can hold, I want the whole audience to hold me to this, because I'm not 100, I'm 1,000, hell, I'm 1,000,000% secure, okay? I'm 1,000,000% certain about this. Secure in my convictions on this. Kamala Harris, on paper, got 75 million votes. 75 million. On paper. I think the real number is 60. Maybe 62, 63 tops. You're looking at 10, 12, maybe 15 million illegal votes. 15 million. That's how widespread the fraud is. Okay? That's the size of countries. Israel is a country of 10 million people. So it's bigger than the entire population of Israel. Were illegals or people or dead people or whatever fraudulently voting. And just to give you, I can give you example after example after example. Let me just give you the latest. You remember Nick Shirley. Everybody now knows Nick Shirley. He was the one that exposed so much of the fraud in Minnesota. Well, Nick Shirley decides, what the hell? Let's go to California. Okay, that's one of the, it's the biggest state, the most populous state. It's got the most fraud of any state in the country. Just skimming the surface. Give me voting rolls. Oh, what's this? Now this is public information. 104 people voted from one address. And so he goes to the address. And there's nobody there. You can look it up. He's like, here it is. And he shows the address. He shows the zip code. He goes, look, this is where I am. Now, here it is. 100 in the last election, 104 people registered and voted. It says they voted and they all came from this address. They were registered to vote, and they said, well, where do you live? This is the address they put down. So 104 people voted from one address, and there's nobody there. And then Shirley goes, well, let's go to this place. And then another. It's a parking lot. It's just a parking lot. That's it. It's not even a physical building. This is how arrogant, this is how open, how explicit. I'm telling you, it's like Eastern Europe. Eastern Europeans are funny. They go they so disrespect us. They don't even hide it. It's like a man cheating on his wife or a woman cheating on her husband. It's like, could you at least pretend you don't have a lover? Could you at least, sneak around? Does the whole town the whole village, does everybody have to know you're sleeping around on me? Like, could you at least have that much respect for me? It's the same thing. Like, if you're going to steal, could you at least hide it or try to hide it? It's a parking lot. It's a parking lot. They had over 100 people registered to vote from the parking lot. A parking lot. So what they do is it's either illegals voting or Democrat operatives voting over and over and over and over again. That's why they don't want driver's licenses or photo ID. That's why they don't want citizenship status. That's why they don't want any of this. Because all this has to stop. Here, another one, quick. Okay, it's not our country, but they found out in Northern Ireland, okay, in Great Britain, in Northern Ireland. This went on for decades. The 1970s, the 1980s, the 1990s. They started to realize it's not normal. There are more people voting than people registered to vote. And so it came out that they did an investigation. They finally cleaned up the voting rolls. And guess what? The Catholic parties and the Protestant parties, you know what they did? They had operatives and they put them in vans and they would just go and dump them off at one polling place, have them vote, scoop them up, drive to the next polling place, dump them off, have them vote there. And then to change their identities, they had them put on wigs. They had them change clothes. So they just had them like play dress up. And they said the key, they go, we used women. And they're like, why? Oh, they go, oh, no, because when the election poll workers would say, I don't think this is really you. Or I don't think, I don't think you really live here. They would let them vote because they kind of gave the benefit of the doubt to women. They didn't like to turn away women at the polls. And so they go, we did it for 30 years. It was rampant voter fraud. So what did they do? Same thing. Rich in Tennessee. Thanks for holding, Rich, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. I moved down here 4.5 years ago. Now, let's compare Massachusetts to Tennessee. Massachusetts, you don't need an ID to vote. You got a fake Indian and the ice cream man. Down here, you need an ID. We have Marsha Blackburn and Bill Haggerty. Do I have to say any
more? Rich, I'm just curious. What do you think about having people's citizenship status put on driver's licenses? Are you okay with that? And do you think it's going to cut down on voter fraud?
That I think they should treat it the way the Massachusetts treats the Second Amendment. If you want to get a gun in Massachusetts, you got to go take a class, then you got to pay a fee, then you got to be approved by the state police, and who knows how long it takes. In Tennessee, if I want to buy a gun, I go into the gun store and show them my ID, and I get my gun.
By the way, I think aren't there background checks, Rich?
Oh, yeah, they have a background check.
And is there, if you don't mind me asking, is there a waiting period? Like, I think it's like, maybe, is it 2 days or 3 days or is it an instant background check? I'm sorry, I missed that, Rich. Can you repeat that?
You got to wait for the background check. They call into the TBI, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations, and as long as you're not a felon and you live in the state, you have valid ID, you can get a gun.
God bless Tennessee. I mean, really.
You idea.
Rich, look, I think you won the argument. I mean, you're right. Look, we have voter ID. We get Marsha Blackburn, Bill Haggerty. You guys don't have voter ID. You get, Chief Spreading Bull and Modicula, Ice Cream Ed. Case closed. Rich, thank you very much for that call. It'll change everything. It'll change everything. There's no question. And so that's what the Democrats fear. Can you imagine, just stand back objectively, if Massachusetts overnight becomes purple, Rhode Island purple, Vermont purple, Connecticut purple, New York State purple, Illinois purple, California purple? a truly competitive two-party state? Can you just and whatever purple states like, I don't know, Pennsylvania or Georgia or Michigan become solid red? Wisconsin solid red? I mean, can you just imagine that? Just think about, how do the Democrats win a presidential election? They can't. How do they win a majority, say, in the House or take back the Senate? They can't. I mean, they're in the political wilderness for at least 10 years. Look, in other words, the socialists cannot continue to take over the party. They're going to have to moderate. The party will have to become a much more moderate party. Why? Because that's the only way to be competitive. And that's why they're getting their marching orders now. Oppose the SAVE Act, no matter what the cost. 617-266-6868. Paul in Bellingham. Thanks for holding, Paul, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Very good. How are you, Paul?
I am great. I love this thing about the voting, the ID stuff. Now, I have a question for you. We all were forced to get this real ID, but somebody try to tell me that with the real ID, and I have it, my wife has it, and she went through hell to get it because her maiden name was Caruso, not Peluso, so she had to show all kinds of different things. And I've heard people complaining about that, but we all did it. But what about illegals? Do they have a real ID license? Someone says, oh, they just have a regular license. They can't get a real ID license. Do you know anything about that?
Paul, my understanding, and if someone in the audience knows more or works at the DMV or RMV, whatever it's called now, please call in and correct me. But my understanding is, at least here in Massachusetts, illegals are given a regular license, not this federal ID, but they're automatically registered to vote. And what was said earlier was 1,000% true. When one Republican, when they said, okay, you guys all want driver's licenses for illegals, fine. Just don't have them automatically registered to vote. And he put that amendment on the floor. They denounced him, from the heavens. The Democrats denounced him. The rhinos denounced him. The media denounced him. All hell broke loose. And he's saying, well, but they shouldn't be allowed to vote anyway. This is discrimination. This is racism. We don't have a problem in Massachusetts. How dare you even imply we have a problem? So they get a license, and then they're automatically registered to vote. And then they do what they do. Paul, it's so obvious. They do what they do. They bus them in with vans. It doesn't matter. And they have them vote and vote and vote. And it's almost an unlimited supply of votes. And by the way, that's why whenever there's an election, statewide election in Massachusetts, the media calls it for the Democrat within 30 seconds. And we're all wondering, how? They haven't even counted the votes yet. Okay, so another argument because the racist argument is just not flying. In fact, it's insulting, it's condescending, it's racist itself. It's a bigoted argument that minorities, Latinos, blacks are just, too incompetent, too stupid, too low IQ to be able to get proper voter photo ID. Okay, it's demeaning, degrading, and as I said, condescending. It's insulting. So now they're trying to scare the women. I'm not kidding. So now they're claiming that this would undo the amendment. You can't make this up. That gave women the right to vote. Because now, especially married women who had to change from their maiden name to their married name, that this would now, oh my God, how are they going to show proof of citizenship and their original name, and to be able to register to vote, and then to get the proper voter photo ID. And so let me just read an email from my sister, a text from my sister, and a message from Marianne in Florida. This is what my sister wrote me on my private phone. Jeff, I'm not sure what the issue is for marriage and married women. the proof of citizenship has nothing to do with married women or non-married women. I am married. I use my husband's last name, but I have proof of my naturalization certificate. My sister was naturalized like I was. When Democrats feel the heat, they just yell racist, discrimination, misogynistic, etc. Lately, as I listen to all these Democrats, it's like watching One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Yeah, pretty much, Jen. So, show your naturalization certificate. If you were naturalized, your birth certificate. I could go on and on. Now, this is Marianne. This is what Marianne wrote and on Messenger, and she's completely right. She's absolutely completely right. And she's very, very angry, saying that this is extremely insulting to women in general and to her in particular. So this is what she writes. Jeff, so the lie now that the Democrats are telling is that women won't be able to vote because their last names don't match their birth certificate, which is total, can't say this, which is total BS. I had to get my real ID. I have been married more than once. I had to have that paper trail, so I had my birth certificate. And then I also had to get my marriage and divorce certificates showing the paper trail and my change of name for both marriage and divorce. You got to pay a few dollars to get certain documents, but since we can't change our names on our birth certificates, this is all what you have to do. It's really no big deal. They are using scare tactics to tell women that they will never be able to vote again, just like back in the 1800s and early 1900s. Once again, they're trying to scare women to believe that every single right that they have will be taken away. I hate these people. I hate them. And I would venture to say that most women have their real IDs, and they have to show all of that proof if they've been married at all or more than once. Because in order to get that, you have to have all of that information. Bingo. Bingo. So, again, it's insulting. It's condescending. Women have been using their married names, and it's okay. It's not a problem. And they do it for driver's licenses. They do it to get their real ID, the federal ID. They use it to get passports. I could go on and on and on. So it's another red herring. Now, and here's the checkmate argument. Okay, final point, then I want to go back to the phones. If this is such an insurmountable burden, as these Democrats keep claiming, why do an overwhelming majority of blacks support voter photo ID? Why do 82% of Latinos support voter photo ID and show proof of citizenship? Why does the overwhelming majority of women, 85%, support proof of citizenship and voter photo ID? In other words, the very groups that allegedly are going to be impacted by this are the ones saying, we don't have a problem with it. So if they don't have a problem with it, why do the Democrats? I'll tell you why. Because they want to steal. That's it. That's what it comes down to. Cheat, 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 steal, steal, steal. Al in Florida. Thanks for holding, Al, and welcome.
Jeff, I want to tell you, I called Congressman McGovern's office in Washington, D.C., and I asked them why he voted against the SAFE Act. One of the things I asked him is, did he know that there were dead people on the voting roll, and did he accept that? Well, to make a long story short, I got footwork. They couldn't tell me. They kept on telling me, go to their webpage and look it up. And I said, I shouldn't have to do that. Why did he do that? The other thing I asked, did the congressman take a consensus in his district to see what his voters wanted? I didn't get an answer on that either, Jeff. I got footwork. It's disgusting. These guys think they're royalty as far as I'm concerned.
Jim McGovern is a clown. He's a woke idiot. He's a clown. And you're right, Al. He's like so many Democrats in this state. They have run this state for so long because it's a one-party state. They think they're above the law. They're full of arrogance and hubris. They think this grift is going to go on forever. And, you know, you're right. What about all the it's been exposed. What about all the dead people voting? They don't have an answer. And again, by the way, they're finding out again on the voting rolls. 125 years old, 130 years old, 140 years old, 150 years old. Al, I never knew Massachusetts had so many people over 100 years old. I mean, our country is incredible. We have the fountain of youth. How many Americans now are over 100 years old? It's just incredible. And by the way, why doesn't he ask his constituents? You know why? Because I'm going to tell you, polls show in Massachusetts, over 80 to 85% of all voters support voter photo ID and proof of citizenship. 80 to 85%, depending which poll you look at. That's even higher than the audit for the state legislature. That was 72%. So, no, they know if this, and that's why I'm urging people, put it on the ballot. Get the signatures. You should have no problem getting signatures. Put it on the ballot. Now, you watch. We put it on the ballot. We're going to win. It's going to be even more decisive than 72%. It's going to be 80, 85%. You know what they're going to come out and say? It's unconstitutional. So, other states can have voter photo ID. The rest of the world can have voter photo ID. We had voter photo ID for much of our history. But all of a sudden now it's unconstitutional when it's going to expose your fraud and your election corruption. They're like think political gangsters. And that's the Democratic Party. And one thing gangsters don't want is they don't want to be exposed and they don't want to be caught. This will expose them and this will catch them. Al, dynamite call. Thank you so much for that call, Al. 617-266-6868. Okay, let me ask you this question. Will the Republicans pass the SAVE Act? Anthony in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Anthony, and welcome.
Well, Jeff, as usual, thank you for having me. To answer that last question before you went to the break, I just think that they're not going to pass it because the Rhino Republicans are seeing that the Democrats are going to do everything that they can to stop it, so they feel that it's safe to jump on board and say, yeah, I was supporting it. But the reason why I called is because a lot of people aren't catching what the Democrats are doing. They do not think, the Democrat politicians, I should say, because we all know what the polls are, that 95% of Republicans support this, 82% of independent voters support this, and even 71% of their Democrat voters support this ID for voting. The politicians, on the other hand, are running cover. What they're saying is all these people will be disenfranchised, so that way, if it does go through, they can say, oh, the reason why we lost so many votes was because you disenfranchised 10 million people, not the fact that 10 million people were illegally voting.
That's a very interesting point. Anthony, I want to go back to what you initially said, because I think, again, you're probably right. And, you know, I wish you were wrong, but I think you're right, that the rhinos are going to cave. They always cave. Why is Thune so afraid to end the filibuster? I mean, it's so obvious. The writing's on the wall. I don't know how much louder and clearer the Democrats can say it. They come back to power. Forget the winning the presidency. If they just win back the Senate, never mind the House, just the Senate, they're going to end the filibuster. So the filibuster is coming to an end. Where you like it, don't like it, it's gone. It's going to be gone. Why don't the Republicans just beat them to the punch, end the filibuster? Everything now requires just 50 votes plus one, and we can pass almost all of Trump's agenda before the November elections, the big one being the SAVE Act, which would do so much to end voter fraud. Don't the Republicans want to win? Don't the Republicans want to stay in power? Don't the Republicans want to stop all of this fraud and corruption? What is Thune and what are the rhinos so afraid of? Why are they unwilling to end the filibuster? What's your theory, Anthony?
Well, Jeff, it's the same thing as Massachusetts Republicans. If you're a rhino, all you care about is that donor cash coming in so that you can spend it however you want. And as far as them caving, they're not really caving. They're jumping on board so that they can say, look, I was on board. They're just going to stick with the old, well, this is historically out the policy, and we don't want to look bad, and the typical rhino talking point. But they forget the history of this country, and Democrats have ended the filibuster in the past. Wasn't it Harry Reid that ended it for
judges?
while?
Yeah, for judges and judicial appointments, but not for everything else. But no, you're right. You're right. It was for judges and judicial appointments, and it cost them dearly because that's how Trump got his appointments through, because it no longer required 60 votes. And that brought the Supreme Court, to our side, and it ended Roe v. Wade. I mean, just to give you many, one of many examples. So that blew up in the Democrats' face. Anthony, I want to ask you this, because you get around, you drive, you go to sanctuary cities, you've been following illegal immigration for years and years. How widespread, in your view, and rampant do you think voter fraud is, especially in Massachusetts? In other words, if you can just indulge me, say we get voter ID in mass. I know it's not going to happen. They're going to fight it, but just humor me. So we have voter photo ID. You have to show proof of citizenship before you can register to vote. And then the SAVE Act passes, let's just say, and Massachusetts has to clean up its voter rolls and take off, cut off or take out all of the illegals, all of the dead people, all of the non-citizens, all of these people that can no longer vote. They're off the voter rolls. What would happen in Massachusetts? In other words, how many illegals are voting, and how much of a change would it lead to Massachusetts politics if the Democrats couldn't rely on voter fraud and illegal voting? What say you?
I say that it would become a purple state, Jeff. Let me give you a little example of 2020, okay? In these illegal housing facilities, they're like giant complexes that have maybe 50, 100 apartments in them, okay? And they all have these little community rooms where they can play dominoes and do all that other stuff, right? Well, that's where they put the voting machines. Last election in 2020, well, the 2020 election, I was doing a delivery to this building, and there in the function room is all the machines. All these machines are sitting in the room with nobody watching them. Nobody's watching these machines. And they're all sitting there, and there's a little sign, do not touch. Come on. As far as the illegals voting, they're not supposed to get health care. They're not supposed to get food stamps. They're not supposed to do all of these things, but yet they are. So are they voting? Absolutely. If they have to, the other thing that I see too, Jeff, is there'll be these apartment buildings where all your registration information goes to, and the address of the person that was registered there for their stuff is no longer living there. They're long gone. They probably haven't lived there in years. But yet all their driver's license renewal forms, the mailman will tape it to the window. There'll be 15 of them, from the registry, taped to the window because, the mailbox doesn't say the name on it anymore. Well, they do the same thing with the mail-in ballots. You cannot tell me that if if you want to keep your benefits, if you want to keep all that stuff going in Massachusetts, and you see those ballots on the window, that you're not going to take them down because you know that your neighbor has moved 6 months ago, a year ago, and is no longer there. And a lot of them know that they went back to the Dominican Republic, they went back to El Salvador, they went back to the country that they came from, some of them. Okay? So now you see that mail-in ballot sitting there on the window with your neighbor's name on there that doesn't live there anymore. You can't tell me they're not pulling it down and filling it out and sending it in.
You nailed it. you nailed it. The whole fraud, the way they rig the game and how it works here in Massachusetts. You absolutely nailed it. Anthony, as always, thank you very much for that call. He's right. Look, it becomes a competitive two-party state. We become a purple state. Every election is contested. Every election is going to be 52-48, 51-49, 53-47. Races become dogfights. And you start getting a lot more Republicans, elected to Congress and elected to the state legislature. I mean, it changes everything overnight. And Democrats actually have to start earning votes. And that's the problem. They can't. Because they've been so lazy and just so used to automatically winning and just, press a button. How many more votes do we need? Okay, 200, okay, 300, okay, 400,000, okay, 500, whatever we need. And have you noticed Democrats hardly even campaign in this state? They don't even campaign. Because it's easy when you have Republicans led by Amy Carnevale, that clown, leading the Mass GOP. They don't even contest most Democrats in most districts. So they don't even have a competitor. They don't even have a challenger or an opponent. So, of course they're coasting to victory. You're owning and controlling the Republican Party, and their job is to take a dive. So that's the problem. This would bust this corrupt system wide open. You pass the SAVE Act, it changes everything. Leo in Worcester. Thanks for holding, Leo, and welcome.
You have a quick comment before I get to my point, and hopefully Sandy's listening. I got a great bumper song for when you have the subject. It's a song called The Cheater. It was in the 60s. I just thought I'd mention that.
Oh, I like that. I like that, Leo. Mike, can you find the song The Cheater? Do you know the band, Leo, by any chance?
I don't. I meant to look it up before I called.
That's okay. That's okay. Mike, The Cheater in the 1960s. Mike, I know the curling is very exciting right now, but if you could do that for me, I'd appreciate it. Leo, I got to say this. I love Mike. I really do. He is so pro-USA. He is such a patriot. He takes these Olympics so seriously. Like, we got to win gold in everything. Especially like hockey, men's hockey, women's hockey. I mean, I wish our Olympians had his patriotism. Honestly, he wants it all. He wants a gold in every sporting event. But anyway, I digress. Go ahead, Leo.
The only good thing is when he's watching, he lets you talk a little longer.
Have you noticed it's been a few days? He doesn't cut me off anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'll be quick because I know you got other callers.
Go ahead, Leo.
I travel for my job, and there was a few years ago, the trip got canceled, and I said, well, it's a local election. I know it ain't going to make much difference being mostly Democrats, but I'm going to vote, so I went in, and I'll just use a fake street. What's your address? 4 Main Street. Well, Leo, you already voted. What do you mean I already voted? And they had it crossed off. So I put up a stink, and then I finally was able to get a ballot and vote. But the thing is, whoever came in, I think it was a neighbor because they knew I traveled, and I don't know. I think they kept the vote of the person that came in and said they were me. That's why I think is a great argument for the SAVE Act.
Well, Leo, look, that's happened to me as well. I've gone and they said, well, we have you here having voted. And I said, no, I didn't vote. Here I am. And that's the other thing. I think they said somebody sent in a mail-in ballot and they claimed it were me. Well, I never vote mail ballot. I always vote in person. And so I don't know if it was a neighbor. I don't know if it was, I don't know. I mean, I'm like you can only speculate. But I found that it bothered me because I said, number one, they're cheating. And number two, technically, you're disenfranchising me because, not only, okay, they allowed me to vote, just like you, they eventually allowed me to vote. But think about it, Leo, if, say, your liberal neighbor gets to vote twice, so they have their vote, and then their second vote cancels your vote. That's not fair. Like, you want to talk about, disenfranchising. There's nothing more disenfranchising than this. I mean, Leo, am I wrong?
Oh, you're 1,000% right, Jeff. I'm like you. Besides that, I one year I got COVID, multiple ballots in the mail.
Yeah, the same thing happened to me. Yeah, we had 4 ballots, 2 for me, 2 for Grace, and then they sent 2 more. I don't know. I didn't recognize the names, but it was to my address. And that's why I said, and it was all based on the honor system. All I had to do, if I wanted to, was just check, Trump, right? It was the presidential election, and we could have voted 6 times. So 2 of us could have voted, and it would have been 6 votes, and mail it in, and no one would have caught us because there's no way of checking. And so I'm thinking that's why I know there was massive voter fraud, because if it happened to me and it happened to you, and I've heard stories from so many people, I got multiple ballots, Jeff. I know there was massive voter fraud because most people, if they get the chance to cheat, they will. Especially when you're telling liberals and moonbats, Hitler. Oh my God, if he wins, it's Hitler. You're all going to be sent to death camps, concentration camps, dictatorship. You're all going to lose the right to vote. You're all going to be rounded up and killed. I mean, the fear mongering. So, yeah, to stop Hitler, an actual Hitler, would I vote multiple times? Of course I would. Who wouldn't? You'd be crazy not to vote multiple times if you think, Adolf Hitler 2.0 is coming to power. So they stole 2020, and I'm telling you, we're going to be vindicated. It's all going to come out. It's only a matter of time. Leo, thank you very much for that call. Charlie in Mansfield, thanks for holding, Charlie, and welcome.
How you doing? Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, Charlie.
Jeff, in answer to your question about the SAVE Act, I have to agree with the other callers. I don't think our Republican Party will do the right thing and vote the SAVE Act in. I'm really disenfranchised with both parties, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, because I don't believe they work for the people anymore. And a couple other callers came in and also said that they contacted their congressmen or their senators or whatever and came back with that answer. Well, yeah, look it up on the website. We giving you those answers. I really believe that we as a country need to hold our congressmen and our senators accountable for their actions. And if that means that we have to vote every single one of them out in the next election, then let's do it. Because we can't keep doing this. It's a no-brainer with the SAVE Act. I was joking with the gentleman that brought me on the phone, that gave you, let me come on the air.
That's Mike.
And I said to him, I went to the local liquor store. I'm 66 years old, and I went to the local liquor store, and the gentleman, it was a young kid, probably brand new at the job, said to me, "Sir, I need an ID to buy this liquor." And I said to him, I left my wallet in the car. I have my credit card with me. And he goes, "Well, no, if you don't have a picture ID, I can't sell you this alcohol." Now, I'm sure there was probably another issue that came about, and this kid probably had to push the issue about me getting a picture ID. But so I looked at him and I said, I can go to the voter polls without a picture ID and vote, but I can't get alcohol at your store without a picture ID? There's something wrong with this. And the kid goes, "I'm just doing my job. Don't get me fired." I said, "Okay, I agree with you. I'm not going to get you fired." But it's to the point now where if we as a country don't push the issue and start speaking on behalf of our elected officials, then we're not going to have a country. We're going to go the way of like Europe and those places.
Charlie, you are so right. It's not even funny. And look, let me just tell you this, just to reinforce what you're saying. So I got a belly. I have a beer belly without the beer. Okay. So I'm a pudgy guy. I've got whatever little hair left is gray. I'm balding, and I continue to bald. When I went to the movie theater, I took my wife to see a movie last weekend, okay? So we go to the movie theater. The lady behind the cashier, behind the cash, the lady that where you get your tickets from, says to me, am I 60 years old? I said, why would you say that? She said, well, because then you can get the senior discount. So what I'm saying is now I'm getting mistaken. I'm 56. I'm getting mistaken for being 60 years old. You know, you're eligible for the senior discount. Grace started laughing, okay, because she looks so much younger than I do. But my point is, this is how old I look, that they're now asking me, do I want the senior discount? Okay, frankly, it's a little depressing, but let that go. Why not just take it? That's what Mike says. You know, I was like, no, hey, I'm 56. She was like, oops. Anyway, my point is this. When I don't drink, but Grace likes a glass of wine once in a while. She's Italian, so I go to the store. I go to Big Y and I buy a nice bottle of wine that Grace wants. I'm at the cashier and she tells me, can you show me ID? Now, my point being, I don't look young. You can't mistake, you can't say, well, 25, 30, I'm not sure. I don't want to get in trouble. Show me ID. Okay? I'm 56, mistaken for 60. There's no way I'm 21. It's no way. Every time I buy a bottle of wine for my wife, they ask me the way they asked you when you went to the liquor store. I need photo ID. I'm sorry. It's the law. I have to ask you. I have to ask you. I said, do I look 21 to you? Like under 21? Sir, I'm sorry. It's the law. So look, you got to show photo ID for everything. Everything. I can't think of a thing now where you don't show photo ID. And you go to a bar, you go to a restaurant, you want to have some whatever, a glass of beer or a glass of wine, photo ID, please. So it doesn't. So what I'm saying is, if that's the case, why can't we? I'm sorry, you made the rules, not me. So why can't we have photo ID when it comes to voting? It's absurd, and it's clear. The Democrats have rigged the system, and they've rigged it to the point that it's a science. They have so many illegals and so many dead people voting. This is how they control California and New York and Massachusetts and Illinois. This is how they're able to maybe come back to power again in November in the midterms. This is how an imbecile, a drunk imbecile, okay, a drunk imbecile like Kamala Harris gets 75 million votes. I remember I'm looking at this. I'm like, look, they're either as a country we're insane. 4 years of Biden, 4 years of that wreckage and destruction. This woman who 6 sheets to the wind every time you see her in an interview, who cackles and laughs, okay, who's, a lush. She's a lush. Who can't put a single sentence together. It's word salad after word salad. She's a walking, talking idiot. Okay, as the Russians would say, idiot. And she gets 75 million votes? No way. No way. No way. Something is wrong. And it's the voter fraud. I mean, they've got it down to a science. I think it's 15 million. I'll go 10 million. That to me is lowball. But Charlie, I'm telling you, it's 10 to 15 million. Now, 10 to 15 million, that's almost impossible to overcome. The only way we did it in 2024, we just so flooded the polls. We so overwhelmed them. It was, massive turnout, unbelievable turnout. But, you're not going to get that all the time. You're just not. And that's what the Democrats are counting on. That's why, to me, this is the test for the Republican Party. Okay, this is from Mark on Messenger. And he wants me to not just say it to all of you, but specifically to Republicans. The Republican Party, hopefully the Trump administration is listening. Look, they're on board with us. They want the SAVE Act passed, but especially the congressional Republicans. Jeff, the blatant lying has got to stop. When it comes to Trump, when it comes to voter ID, when it comes to racism. And I can guarantee you this, Jeff, that Chuck you Schumer and the rest of the Democrats do not believe a single word that's coming out of their own mouths. They know it's the right thing to do, i.e. pass the SAVE Act, but they'll never admit it. And Jeff, what I don't understand is that the Democrats are telling the Republicans, now this is regarding the filibuster, okay, they're going to end it, right to their face what they're going to do to them if they come back into power. So if there's any Republican out there that votes against the SAVE Act, then he's an idiot or she's an idiot. Jeff, am I wrong? No, you're at like 1,000% right, as I like to say. I mean, look, I used to be for the filibuster. I thought, hey, I remember under Obama, we're like, ooh, oh my God, thank the Lord at, 60 votes because he would have destroyed us. He would have. So I was always, it's a check on power. It's a check on a bad president or on socialism or on radical Democrats. But, as they say, that horse has left the barn. So they win in November. They're going to end the filibuster. That's it. End of story. And then you watch. They're going to unload and unload and unload and unload. So to the Republicans, don't bring a knife to a gunfight. End the filibuster now. So it doesn't take 60 votes to pass the SAVE Act. It's 50 plus 1. Susan Collins just announced she's going to support it. JD is begging to vote on it. Put it on the floor. End the filibuster. 50 plus 1. We passed the SAVE Act. The House has already passed it. And Trump has said he's begging to sign it. He was just, please send it to me. I'll sign it. I'll sign it in the middle of the night. I'll sign it when I'll just sign it. I'll sign it when I don't care. I'll be on Air Force One. I'll sign it. Just send it to me and I sign. 617-266-6868. Stan in Lynn. Thanks for holding, Stan, and welcome.
Yeah, Jeff. What I'm trying to figure out is how is the SAVE Act affecting mail-in ballot rolls? Do they have enough time to audit all these ballot rolls? They keep sending out these mail-in ballots, which I think is, that's half the election. Half the election is what? Mail-in ballots. The rest of them is walk-in ballots. And in the voting stations, can they put up a sign that says, if you're not a citizen, it's illegal to vote, you will be prosecuted? But I guess they'll have to put that up in about 26 languages for people to understand. But how are they going to audit these ballot rolls? How long
Stan,
is it going to take?
No, it's a very, very important, very good question. It doesn't end mail-in balloting. I wish it did. For the most part, as I said, for military and people who really have very bad medical conditions, okay? But it really limits mail-in balloting. So what it does is you have to show proof of citizenship to be able to get a mail-in ballot. And even then, they're going to limit it to the military. They're going to limit it to elderly people. In other words, universal mail-in balloting is gone. And for the most part, it's going to end, not to say end, but it's going to reduce mail-in and balloting substantially. So look, Stan, how do I say this? It's not a perfect bill. I'm not saying, if Jeff Kuhner was a professor at McGill, okay, if I was back as a professor, this is a B-plus bill. It's not an A bill. It's not an A-plus bill. It's not a perfect bill. But B plus, it's a good bill. In other words, the expression, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. This is a good enough bill that this will substantially reduce voter fraud enough that the Democrats are going to lose. Believe me, if it would allow them to do unlimited mail-in balloting, they wouldn't care. Schumer now is going to put everything on the line. The Democrats now are going to put everything on the line to stop the SAVE Act. So that tells you two things. That tells you, one, they're cheating. Their actions now show, it's self-evident, they've been engaging in massive fraud, voter fraud, and cheating. And number two, Stan, it reduces enough of the corruption and cheating that the Democrats realize they're going to lose, or they're going to lose many elections. So it doesn't even the playing field, but it makes it more fair. And just by making it more fair, the Democrats can't win. Does that make any sense?
No, right, though. But, when you're saying mail-in ballots are gone, I don't understand that. How are they going to stop it? I mean, they're going to come to Massachusetts and say, oh, you can't send all these ballots out anymore. Is it against the law to do this?
Well, you can only send it to certain groups of people, and you have to show proof of citizenship to register to vote and to even then get a mail-in ballot. So, in other words, most people are not going to be able to get a mail-in ballot. You're going to have to go vote in person. So the way I put it is this: it's going to end about 80 to 85, 90% of the fraud. And it just shows you how weak the Democrats are. Okay, this is from Eric on Messenger, and man, he hits the nail right on the head. Look, on top of everything else, basically saving our country, fixing future elections, restoring election integrity, having clean, honest, fair, free elections again. Okay? Basically saving our republic. Besides that, Eric points out, in terms of if you're a MAGA supporter, a Trump supporter, it's almost a political necessity to get the SAVE Act passed. Why? Jeff, if we don't eliminate the filibuster and pass the SAVE Act, everything done by Trump will be reversed, and we have lost everything that we have accomplished since Trump's election. Shame on us. And then Eric continues, the Republican mascot should be the ostrich who keeps his head in the sand when it counts. The Republican animal is the elephant. The elephant works too hard to be called a Republican. It's an insult. Yeah, no, it's true. The Democrats are the donkeys, right? The donkey is the Democrat animal, and the Republicans, it's the elephant. What elephant? Elephant's supposed to crush a donkey. You look at an elephant, it's huge. It's a mother big animal. Just sit on the donkey and that's it. It's over. No, I agree with you, Eric. It should be the ostrich. That's all they do is stick their head in the sand. That's it. 617-266-6868. Okay, just very quick, because I want to go back to the phone lines. I did not know how extensive voter photo ID was in terms of voting in elections around the world. I knew many countries had it, obviously, but I didn't know the extent of how many countries actually have it. It's almost 200 countries. There's a handful of countries, and they're all, by the way, notoriously corrupt, that do not have voter photo ID when you go vote in an election. But just to quickly lay it out for you, what are the Democrats arguing? Okay, super quick. They're arguing that blacks are going to be disenfranchised, that basically they're too incapable, too stupid to be able to get ID so they can vote in an election. They say Latinos, ditto, that they're just too low IQ, too incapable, too stupid to be able to get ID. Okay, and minorities in general, that this is, oh my God, Jim Crow 2.0. This is segregation. This is apartheid. My God, you're going to be disenfranchising tens and tens of millions of people. Okay, this is oppression. That's what's going to happen if you pass the SAVE Act. Really? Okay. Every single country in Europe, 47 countries in Europe, all 47, you need photo voter ID to vote. No photo ID, you don't vote. Name your country. So, as I said, what? Norway now is a fascist state? Like, are you guys going to... do you see how stupid you sound? What? The Netherlands? France? Belgium? Denmark, England, Ireland. Like what? They're all racist states now? They're all racist countries? They're all, quote unquote, anti-democratic? As the Democrats and Schumer is yelling and screaming? Like, are you sick in the head? Canada, photo ID to vote. Australia, New Zealand, photo ID. Most of Asia, Japan, Vietnam, South Korea, India. I could go on and on. Photo ID to vote. But it gets even worse for the Democrats. Apparently, blacks are incapable. By the way, even though overwhelming majority of African Americans, blacks, want voter photo ID. Okay, but let that go. And 82% of Latinos support voter photo ID. 83% of all Americans support voter photo ID. Okay, but again, let that go. Every country in Africa, I'm sorry, the last time I checked, there's billions of black people in Africa. Every single country in Africa, you want to, including, by the way, South Africa, which overthrew apartheid and segregation and that country's version of Jim Crow. All of them require, you want to vote? Photo ID. Okay, but what about the Latinos, Jeff? Jeff, the Latinos. Hey, it's too much for them. Every country in South America, I don't care. Colombia, Peru, Argentina, Chile, Brazil. Take your pick. I don't care. Paraguay, Uruguay, whatever. Even Venezuela, the sham elections they have. Still, you want to vote? Photo ID. Mexico, photo ID. So we're talking now entire continents. South America, Africa, Europe, most of Asia. By the way, the Middle East, Israel, photo ID. Most countries in the Middle East, Arab, Muslim countries, photo ID. So either the world is crazy or the Democrats are crazy. And I've got news for you. I don't think the world is crazy. So this is now what I think, this is the checkmate argument. There's many checkmate arguments, but this is the one. So either the entire world is anti-democratic and utterly racist, this to the Democrats. Either you go on record and say we're an island of democracy in an ocean of dictatorships and anti-democracies because they all have voter ID. And they're all Jim Crow. Every country. The Africans are racist against themselves. The Latinos are racist against themselves. The Europeans, well, they're racist as well. Everyone, the Asians are racist. The Arabs are racist. The Muslims are racist. Everybody's racist. You want to be that pathetic? You want the world to laugh at you? Is that the argument you want to make? So you want to die on this hill? Die on this hill. If I'm the Republicans, I don't know what their problem is. 83% of the American public are behind you. You have the whole world as an example. The whole world. Blacks are behind you. Latinos are behind you. Women are behind you. Minorities are behind you. Whites are behind you. The American people resoundingly are behind you. I don't know what you're I don't know what you're waiting for. You can't win on this issue if you're not willing to go to the wall on this issue. Then honestly, what good is the Republican Party? JD on the North Shore. Thanks for holding, JD, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you, JD?
Good. Jeff, the SAVE Act is not going to pass in the Senate, and I'm going to tell you why. You alluded to it earlier. You brought up the terms fraud and con, and you're not 100% right, you're 1,000% right, and I'll tell you why. American politics is nothing more than a charade, a farce, and smoke and mirrors. on the House and Senate floor and on the Sunday morning talk shows, they'll rail against one another, the two different political classes in our country. But behind closed doors and in the high-end steakhouses and fancy restaurants of D.C., they're backslapping one another and laughing, and it's like a WWF wrestling match. It's pre-scripted. They know the outcomes of things before it gets to the public. We elect our politicians, so, that's a quote-unquote elect. They go to Washington, they enrich themselves and their families. It's a farce, Jeff. They want to keep us.
JD, can you do me a big favor? I'm up against a heartbreak. I want to come back and have you finish your call, finish your point. Okay, I'm going to go right back to JD on the North Shore. This is from 508. It's so simple and so to the point and yet so true. Jeff, most countries in the world support voter photo ID. So why the filibuster? There you go. There you go. And I think the question answers itself. Now, let's go back to JD, because JD, I think, is onto something big. Jeff, it's all a game. It's not going to pass. You watch the SAVE Act. It may technically have 50 Republican votes. JD will be the deciding 51st vote. But it's like WWF. It's like professional wrestling. They, two parties, they pretend they oppose each other. But behind closed doors, everything is prearranged. It's scripted because they go to Congress to get rich. And they want the corruption to continue. JD, please pick up where you left off.
Thank you, Jeff. You're exactly right. The uni party, two wings of the same bird. Our democratic republic is an illusion in America today. Take Massachusetts, perfect example. The will of the people, the voter, voted overwhelmingly, 72, 73% to audit the legislature?
Yes.
And they give us the middle finger. They give us the bird. They go there, and if we had a true democratic republic, would have term limits. Once you were in office, you wouldn't be able to have stocks. Your family members wouldn't be able to trade on the stock market. It's just so corrupt. The lobbyists, they're all paid off, Jeff. I mean, for crying out loud, Jeff, we have geriatric politicians in their mid-80s stroking out in the halls of Congress. I mean, it's a joke. It's just an illusion. They cut deals, backdoor deals. There's so much money swimming around in Washington with lobbyists and political action committees and foreign influence. It's just a joke. It's just like wrestling. It's scripted. When a wrestler goes into a ring, they know who the winner is and the loser is they rehearse it. And that's what American politics is. It's rehearsed. It's a joke. They divide us to keep themselves in power, keep everybody on edge. It's sad, honestly. It's sad. It's not what our founding fathers envisioned for this country.
Oh, it's the opposite. You're right. It's the opposite of what our founding fathers envisioned. JD, I want to drill just a little bit down, a little deeper, if you don't mind. And I think this is where you're coming from. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you're onto it. Basically, John Thune is playing a game with Chuck Schumer. The Democrats, they're going to filibuster. And there's no way they're going to have 60, you're not going to get 60 votes. Schumer is telling his Democrats, you're not voting for this or else you're finished. So what you have is you have rhinos who say, like Cynthia, like Susan Collins, like Thune himself. And they come in and say, oh, yeah, we're supporting the SAVE Act. We're on board. I voted for it. What do you want me to do? I voted for it. But they know perfectly well that Thune is not going to end the filibuster. So you can have your 51 votes, but if you're not going to break or end the filibuster, then the Democrats block it, which means in the end the SAVE Act goes down. So the fact that you have these Republicans that are saying in public, what do you want me to do, JD? Hey, I backed the SAVE Act. They go back to their voters and say, I voted for it. Schumer filibustered. What can I do? We didn't have 60 votes. So it's all a game. Thune pretends like he's fighting for the SAVE Act. Rhinos pretend like they're voting for the SAVE Act, but they already know this thing is rigged, like professional wrestling. Schumer holds the line, and he's going to hold the line, and that means if you don't end the filibuster, the SAVE Act is going down. Correct, JD? In other words, is that the script? Is that what we're going to see over the next week or two?
That's exactly it. And the Democrats are going to give the rhinos an out, and this is how they're going to do it. They're going to chop that bill up, the SAVE Act, and they're going to stick all these things in it that are so outrageous that the Democrats want, that Republicans will then be like, well, I said I was going to vote for it, but now I can't because there's all these things in there that, my constituents would be really upset if I voted for it because the Democrats loaded it up with their pork, and I just can't do it. So there's their out. There's how the game ends. It's a joke. It's a charade. It's smoke and mirrors, and people need to wake up to it.
JD, dynamite. I mean, outstanding call. You opened and exposed, you unmasked the whole fraud, the whole scheme. You nailed it. It's the uniparty, and they're playing us for fools. JD, thank you very much for that call. Look, that's why I think our litmus test, you may agree or disagree, but I think this is the only way we can effectively counter. No. End the filibuster. Period. No. It's not enough to say you're supporting the SAVE Act. You support the SAVE Act and end the filibuster so we can pass the SAVE Act. That's it. Because it only takes 51 votes to end the filibuster. So if you're serious about passing the SAVE Act, if you're serious about ending voter fraud and election corruption and stolen elections, then very simple. Pass the SAVE Act and support ending the filibuster. That's it. It's a combo. If it's not enough to say, Jeff, I want the SAVE Act. No. If you don't want to end the filibuster, you're not serious. You're a liar. And I think that's what and if you're not going to end the filibuster, out. Because anyway, it's a moot point because when the Democrats come back, they're ending the filibuster. So we might as well just do it and get what we need to save the country passed.